Good evening. It is Thursday night. It is 9 o'clock, and it is time for this conversation between you and me. And as always, I'm so grateful for your involvement, for your participation, for your feedback. And uh, I need to say to you that I appreciate every email, every conversation, every prayer request. It's really great to interact with people at this level. So if you haven't yet, please send me an email. Let me know who you are and tell me what's going on in your life. So many of the topics that I have shared over a number of weeks have come from conversations after the broadcast and your responses to this broadcast. So thank you so much. We are again busy with the same series called Practical Faith, and the idea is just to build like a profile, different aspects of your faith. And tonight we are talking about the discipline of grace. And I know there are people who will be tuning in just because you have a strong opinion on grace, because grace is it's part of our faith. Uh, we don't do Christianity without faith and without grace. It is in every benediction, in every church all over the world. It's how we understand our salvation. Grace is central to who we are as Christians. But before we get into that, I just want to mention to you again a workshop that my wife will be presenting this coming Saturday, just 2 days from now. Get Fighting Fit. It's about how to deal with everyday conflict at home and at work. And it's a great workshop. She's done it with great success over the years, and now she's doing it online. So if you're online now, it means you can get involved with that. And I want to just say that if you send me an email about anything, you just start a conversation with me tonight. I will arrange for at least 2 people to come to this workshop for free. Depending on the registrations tomorrow, it might no. Let's not go there. 2 people. Um, if you send me an email tonight, tomorrow, I can arrange for you to attend the workshop on Saturday for free. So send me an email. It might be worth your while. See how desperate I am for a conversation with you. Okay, so we are talking about the discipline of grace. And um, the reason why this is so central to our faith, but also so controversial, is uh, grace is it's huge, eh? Uh, I think grace is supposed to blow your mind. It's undeserved. And I don't think we naturally have the ability to understand undeserved. We also always want to understand how to deserve something. And undeserved just doesn't make sense. So we have people that uh, cannot fathom grace, and therefore they emphasize the things that we should be doing, the instructions God gave us, the laws and the regulations, and they create merit before God. And great people with the greatest of hearts, in earnest about standing before God in right standing, but trying to do it um, with merit, trying to earn it, and that means grace is out of the picture because it's undeserved. God's undeserved love and favor. Um, then we have guys on the opposite side who make so much of grace that you feel that God is expecting nothing of us. And whatever we do is just okay. However we live, it's just okay. There will be grace. And I don't think those people are as many as some make them out to be. But we kind of move between these extremes. And then we're for grace, and then we say, no, that can't be. It can't be that easy. It can't, you can't get away with that. You can't. And my conclusion, I don't want to tell you tonight that I understand grace, because my conclusion is grace cannot be understood. It's too much. It's too much for you and me. I just want to say this: if it doesn't blow your mind, if you think you've got it defined, and you know the limits, the boundaries of grace, I think you're on the wrong track. Grace is just too much for us to understand. Uh, the Bible speaks of, in Isaiah 64, it says, we're all infected and impure with sin. When we display our righteous deeds, they are nothing but filthy rags. The best we can do is like filthy rags. Uh, when we have God's favor, it's undeserved. It's not because of our good deeds. Paul says it in this way: we have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We fall short. And I think the majority of Christians understand this, that we did not earn our salvation, that we were far away from God. We rejected God, and He saved us not because of anything we did, not because we sorted ourselves out and came to Him and said, I'm okay now. I can be in your presence. It's not how our salvation happened. But in Ephesians, Paul speaks about people that have persevered in their faith. And God saved you by His grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It's a gift from God. It's a gift from God. You cannot take credit for your salvation. But there are people um, in Romans 11 that persevere in their faith. And Paul says, since they've been serving God for a while, it's by God's grace. It can't be a matter of their good works. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a gift of grace, but earned by human effort. You were saved by grace. You are a child of God for the past 5 years or past 50 years. You are a child of God because of grace, not because you started earning or doing well enough after your salvation. You become a Christian because of grace. You remain a Christian because of grace. You persevere in your faith because of grace. Grace is undeserved. You can do nothing to earn it. Human effort will add nothing to it. It will appear like filthy rags. And it's so important to understand just this one thing about grace. Cannot be understood. Cannot be understood. It is undeserved. The second point I want to make is grace bears fruit. You are saved by grace. You remain saved by grace. You walk with God by grace. You grow in your faith by grace. And then this amazing thing happens. The grace you receive bears fruit in your life. Paul says it like this in Philippians: for it is God who works in you both to will and to do for His good pleasure. If we don't try this in our own effort, if we don't try by willpower to obey a list of things that might be incomplete or might be complete, or uh, might lack a whole number of things, but we're trying with willpower to persevere and to obey and to live this impossible life of obedience. If we do it on our own, we are going to fail. But grace says, as I walk with God, it is God Himself who works in me to want to do His will, to work for His good pleasure. So suddenly it comes from the inside. And I have seen people discover this. I've seen people with hard hearts and bitterness and living in horrible ways. And they turn to God. They bow before Him. He saves them. And as they walk with Him, suddenly they don't want to do those other things anymore. And they start to want to do things they haven't wanted to do before. They want to show kindness. They want to. Isn't that amazing? The fruit of grace is that you want to do His will, that you desire to do His will, that you want to do the things that will bring Him pleasure. Grace bears fruit in our lives. And then grace is something that you should live because it can be lived. Uh, it's so important to understand this. Grace is something that we receive, yes, but it's also something that we should live. Um, God showed His great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners, while we were yet sinners. Uh, God placed it all on the line in the hope that we will turn to Him with no guarantee. And that's kind of what grace is, isn't it? And I receive that. I I know God today and I walk with Him because He gave His Son while I was still a sinner, while I wanted nothing to do with Him, while I hardened my heart towards Him. And when I live grace, I need to do the same thing. So if you want to live grace, here's what you need. You need a couple of undeserving people. You can only show grace where it's not deserved. I'm going to say that again. You can only show grace where it's not deserved. So if there's somebody that you want to show kindness to because they're trying really hard, you want to show kindness to this person or that person because they shouldn't actually be in this situation or in that situation, and they've done something that made you grateful, and now you want to help them in return. That's awesome. That's awesome. But I don't think it's grace. To be able to show grace, you need undeserving people, and then you can show grace to them. Um, Very practical. If you forgive those who sin against you, your heavenly Father will forgive you. But if you refuse to forgive others, your Father will not forgive your sins. Um, the most undeserving person in your life right now would be the person that you're struggling to forgive. He's earned your retribution. He's earned your vengeance. He deserves your harshest response. She should not be forgiven. Forgiveness only comes into play when somebody did something that truly hurt you. If it's easy to forgive, it's not that big a thing. But the more you've been forgiven, the more you're able to forgive. Grace is something that you live, and the most undeserving person in your life is that person that you need to forgive. And sometimes I'll say, I'll forgive when somebody repents. I'll forgive when somebody asks me to forgive them and they say, I'm sorry. And they need to say it like they mean it. It's not grace. I need to forgive for my sake, which is a different topic, and we'll get to that. But when I live grace, the discipline of grace is not that I respond to God's grace by doing a whole bunch of good things, by obeying a whole bunch of laws. That's not the discipline of grace. That's not the discipline that I'm speaking of tonight. Your response by doing good things and by obeying His instructions and doing His will is the fruit of grace. It is God in you willing you to do what He wants you to do. It comes from the inside out. Obedience is the fruit, the automatic result of grace. Obedience is not the result of your willpower, of your strength of character. None of us would make it. Obedience is the fruit of grace. The act of living grace is going there where people do not deserve it, doing what they do not deserve. My last point, the more you live grace, the more you will experience it. Don't try to understand grace. Live it. Don't try to understand grace. Don't try and describe it. Don't give definitions and words to it. Live it and experience it. And the more you live it, the more you will experience it. And it will blow your mind. And you will struggle to find words. Grace is amazing. Grace is God's beauty. Grace is His ways that are higher than our ways. Grace makes no sense in our world. It makes no sense in our world. And the closest you'll get to grace, by receiving it, living it, experiencing it. And I hope that you will be able to show grace in these coming days, that you will live grace and experience it again and again. My friend from Zambia, Leonard, saying hi. Thank you, Leonard. Thank you for tuning in. I am so grateful for every interaction. And I want to ask again, in closing, send me an email. Tell me what's going on in your life. Allow me to pray with you. I would love to do that. Don't try and understand grace. Don't try and understand grace. Live it and experience it. And your life will never be the same. Your mind will be blown.